Hey, Marta.
Hello.
Okay, well, hello, everybody, and welcome to What is in Your Bottle? So, today we're actually going to ask some of the most common questions that winemakers get regarding bottle size, bottle shape, bottle color, and then we're going to add a few other tidbits and fun facts as well. To help us answer these questions today, I have enlisted the very talented winemaker and wine educator, Miss Marta.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. It's really nice to have you with us.
And because somebody needs to be kept on track with making sure we drink through all our wines today, I have enlisted myself. I have taken one for the team, and I will be in charge of ensuring we all have wine in our glass through this whole event. So my name is Chelsea, and I'm part of the hospitality team here at the Carmel Tasting Room. A little bit of housekeeping that we don't normally do. Usually I'm in the Carmel tasting room, but we are having some pretty severe storms here on the Monterey Peninsula, and Carmel has not had power all day, so I have had to take it to my house. So bear with us with any technical difficulties if we lose power or we lose the internet. My instruction for you is just to continue drinking on your own. So with that in mind, this is definitely going to be a little bit educational. We even have some videos for you guys, but we want this, as always, to be super interactive. So please feel free. There's that chat button on the bottom. Good evening to everyone that's here. Please feel free to send any comments to us or any questions, and we'll try to answer it as we go. Also, if you're not already, put yourself in gallery view. That'll help you make sure you see all our videos and our pictures as we go along. Hello, a few people have already said hello. Hello, Matt from Connecticut. Thanks for joining us. So I have to say, personally, Marta, preparing this virtual tasting has been really, really interesting and super fascinating. I've learned a lot. I thought I knew some stuff. I know nothing. But after this thing, I'm really excited to drop some knowledge on everybody today. We're going to taste through 3 wines that are originally historically from 3 different wine regions. They are all grown and bottled here locally in Carmel. So if you guys purchased the package, we're going to start with our 2019 Gruner Veltliner. Hopefully that is nice and chilled for you guys. We're going to move on to our 2018 Pinot Noir, and we're going to finish with our 2017 Cabernet. If you guys didn't purchase the package, no worries. We are just super happy to have you guys on enjoying your Wednesday night with us. So pour yourself a glass of whatever floats your boat. We're just happy to have you here. So as drinking ambassador, Marta, I think it's important we start this off with a little bit of tasting. So what are you going to start us off with today?
This is this is a Hock bottle, and this is our 2019 Gruner Veltliner. So before we get to the bottle shapes and sizes and what they stand for and stuff, I think we need to put something in our glass. So with that,
All right.
cheers, everyone. And thank you.
Cheers, Marta.
Cheers. Mm.
All right, what are we drinking? Tell us a little bit about this.
So Gruner Veltliner is grown widely in Austria. The name actually literally means that the green grape from the village of Veltlin, which is a town in the Tyrol region in Italy. Although it is thought that this variety is indigenous to Austria, where it's roughly about a third of all the grapes that they grow in Austria. It's not too widely grown in California, but Scheid has about 12 acres. And we've made it for the last few years. It's an aromatic white wine, unoaked, has a lot of citrus, floral notes.
I get a little honey on it.
A little bit, yeah. But the acidity is really nice.
Mm-hmm. But it still has like good body. What would you pair this with?
Well, I actually, since I had a couple of bottles, I tried this.
Night had a couple bottles before.
No, I had a bottle and I was drinking it while I was cooking a stir fry the other night. And as I'm chopping this ginger, which is very aromatic and very spicy, and it really reminded me of how well that food would pair with this wine, aromatic and spicy.
Yeah. I feel like I've kind of been on a bit of a local takeout kick with everything going on, and we have a little pad thai place, a little Thai place right down the street from us. So I feel like this would go good with a lot of those style dishes as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so as we sip on this, it's absolutely delicious. Let's start out with the fact that we are drinking out of glass. We poured the wine out of glass. So while we're going to get into all that other fun stuff, I really don't think we can go without mentioning first really what glass is and why it's important to wine. So glass is neutral and it's not going to impart any flavor or interact at all with the wine, which is really important. And it's impermeable and it prevents oxidation. So when we're talking about storing the wine, you need to make sure that it's not going to be oxidated, right? And then a fact that I learned doing research for this little tasting is that glass is actually really strong and it doesn't break easily, but I have broken quite a few glasses. So I don't know, Mart, I'm not sure if I believe that because I feel like I must have some Hulk powers with all the glasses that I've broken recently.
I think you do probably have some Hulk powers, but I have seen bottles in the bottling line actually jam in the bottling line and bend stainless steel. The bottle didn't break, but the stainless steel broke. It bent and broke.
Okay, so it's confirmed. I'm
You're the Hulk.
Okay, so when we came up with this idea, talking about bottles, you were super aggressive about ensuring that we talked about glass specifically and got into a little bit of detail on that. So why are you so interested in glass?
Well, as many of you might know, I grew up in Monterey, and on the edge of Pebble Beach, near where Asilomar Beach is and where the Spanish Bay Resort now is, there was a sand plant, and I think we actually have a picture of that. It closed when I was a teenager, but growing up and going to the beach, I was totally fascinated that this really wonderful sand was going to be carted off somewhere and be made into glass. But I had no idea how it would be made. I just thought it was really fascinating, and so it's always fascinated me. So.
Before we get into that, I just want to answer this question because it's about the Gruner. So somebody asked if you could show the glass you're drinking from and if there's something particularly conducive to the floral nature of Gruner.
It's particularly good, conducive. Other than the citrus types of aroma, this is the glass I'm drinking from. This is just our Scheid regular glasses. I know that Riedel has many different styles of glasses, but as far as I'm concerned, as long as I can get my nose in it to smell, and it's wide enough, and that I can swirl it and smell it appropriately, I think that's fine.
Yeah, it's a large enough bowl to let it be able to get that aromatic. You don't want it too skinny.
And other than that, I think the aromatic, it's probably closest to Sauvignon Blanc if I had to pick a variety, in that it's aromatic and unoaked.
Okay. Sorry, continue.
Oh, no worries. So glass can be found in nature, we know, and so such as in lava. I think we have a picture of that as well. Yes, some bright lava there. And when lava cools really quickly, like when it hits the ocean, it can turn into it turns into obsidian. And obsidian is volcanic glass. It's a rock, but it's called volcanic glass. So these are some of the nature's glass.
I feel like that would make a beautiful necklace or something.
They do make jewelry out of it, and lots of arrowheads and that sort of thing were made out of it because it is very strong.
Okay, well, I know another way to make glass is when lightning strikes sand. So I am by no means a glass expert like Marta, and I am by no means a lightning expert, but I did see the movie Sweet Home Alabama, and I know that when lightning strikes sand, it can form what we call a fulgurite. So I'm going to show you guys all a very scientific video right now.
Whoops.
Wow, did you see that? Without one, without two, I feel.
Okay. Marta's videos, guys, will be a little bit more scientific than that, but that's kind of what brought fulgurites into the picture, at least like mainstream. But they're basically these natural tubes or crusts of glass that are formed when the fusion of silica, sand, or rock kind of combines with a lightning strike. So their shape actually mimics the path of a lightning bolt as it disperses into the ground. So you guys can see here, this is what a fulgurite actually looks like. So the temperature has to be over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit to be able to simultaneously fuse the sand into glass. But most lightning strikes are actually a little bit over 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit anyway, so that's usually not too much of an issue. Although the movie, if any of you have seen that movie, makes it sound like they're super common in Alabama too. They're actually really, really rare to find. But if you do find them, they would be by the Atlantic coast, or Lake Michigan has fulgurites as well. So we know where we're going to find glass in nature, but how do you produce glass?
Well, so back in ancient history, this is a picture of a dry lake bed in Egypt, and it's covered with the salt natron. And natron is a combination of salts, one of which is similar to soda ash, and another which is now we would call baking soda. And this was used by the Egyptians in the mummification and embalming ceremonies that they had at the time. And so natron was mined, and it was cut out of these salt beds and transported around the Middle East. I think we have a picture of that as well. There you go. You can see those chunks of the salt bed being cut up. And it is thought that in roughly 3,500 BC, a chance occurrence between a campfire, some natrons, on a sandy beach, caused this combination to form glass-like beads, which are called faience, and they were the precursors of glass.
Okay, so besides sand, which we obviously now know is pretty important in making glass, what else is used to make glass?
Well, sand is glass, excuse me, is roughly 70 to 75% quartz or silica or sand. And it has a melting point, as you mentioned, of well over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So soda ash is now used in place of natron, and it's used to lower the temperature, the melting point of this glass. However, the addition of soda ash to the silica sand caused, when they were trying to make glass, made the glass water soluble. So essentially, if you made a bottle and you put water in it, it would just dissolve and it was melt. So they started adding lime or calcium oxide to make the glass more durable.
Okay, so now we know where to find it, we know how it's made, but when we talk about bottles, right, and it coming into the wine world, how did we turn this into bottles, and how did we get it hot enough to compete with like lava and lightning?
Well, glass was originally fired with wood, but in 1615, King James I of England got a little bit nervous about his wood supply and the effect that this would have on subsequently his navy. So glass shifted production to coal. And I think we have a picture of an old glass. There we go. The unintentional consequence of this that glass being fired by coal is that the glass was stronger. And this actually had unintentional consequences. The sparkling wine developed approximately 30 years earlier in England than it did in France, despite what Dom Perignon might have said, because their glass was more sturdy. So at that time, hand-blown glass bottles were used mostly for serving wine, and wine was stored in barrels. But if you were wealthy and you were a wine drinker, you might have your own glass bottles. And when they were emptied and you wanted to fill them back up, what you would do is you would send all your empty glass bottles back to the vintner of your choice.
Okay, so I can call myself wealthy if my bottles are made out of glass now, right?
Yes, yeah.
All right, I'll take it. I personally just think it's so fascinating that there's so much that goes into glass, and especially the whole sand thing. I really honestly had no idea. Um, but speaking of glass, Marta, mine is empty. So may we move on to the 2018 Pinot Noir?
So this is our 2018 Pinot Noir. And again, I think this is a really wonderful wine. It's Pinot Noir is a red variety and it's indigenous to the Burgundy region of France. It is one of the oldest varieties that's been made into wine. It's been made into wine since the 1st century AD. It's named after the shape of the cluster, which is similar to a pine cone. Pinot equals pine, Noir equals black, so essentially black pine cone. Monterey County farms the largest amount of Pinot Noir of any region in California, and Scheid farms over 700 acres with 20 different clones of Pinot Noir.
Mm. Oh my gosh, this is so smooth. I love this one.
Soft tannins, bright cherry.
And then this one is, so this is 100% oak, right? 14 months, but half of it's a new French oak. So what flavors would be imparted in this because it's, oh, someone actually just asked, how much new French oak versus new? So it's half is going to be new French oak and the rest is going to be neutral. So what is that going to impart into it?
Yeah, it's 100% French oak with 50% new. And to me, I get that kind of mocha kind of characteristic of a lot of vanilla, a lot of those kinds of those butterscotchy kind of components that you might not really normally find in red wine, but you get that mocha vanilla characteristic in this from the oak barrels, that sweet French oak.
I actually do get a little bit of the vanilla on this. I kind of just want to stop talking and just keep drinking this.
Vanilla is one of those things that you really notice about oak.
Yeah.
Really common.
So I actually feel like there's a few things I could pair with this one. What would you pair this with?
Oh, I can't tell you the number of times that I'm asked for a recommendation for a wine to take for dinner. And that's when I'll reach for one of our Pinot Noirs, because I really feel that Pinot Noir is probably one of the best food wines out there. It seems to pair with everything from salmon to lamb chops.
Okay, so basically, if you want to be a good house guest, bring a nice bottle of Scheid
Pinot Noir. There you go.
Okay, perfect. All right, so as we're sipping on this, we're going to move on to a nice little video that Marta has for you guys about bottle blowing before we move on to shapes and sizes. And again, I live in an older house. I'm not sure how the internet bandwidth is going to be on this, so bear with us if it freezes a few times, but we'll try to give this a go. Okay, so I think if we go into another quarantine, which we just got out of, 2 days ago, I'm gonna take up bottle making.
You have to get a furnace in your backyard.
Somebody asked Marta if you oversaw the making of these wines that we're drinking right now.
Yes, I did.
Yes. All hail Marta. Credit goes to Marta on this one for sure. Because this is, I'm trying to like keep it in my glass so it doesn't go empty way before I'm trying to like move on to the next one. So Very good. So let's talk a little bit about size. We know that 750 milliliters is the standard size for a wine bottle, but where exactly did that even come into the picture? What is 750? Why is that there?
Well, bottle shapes and sizes have developed over time. And by the early 1700s, people had stopped buying wine so much in bulk and had started buying wine in bottles. But it was and this was a process called binning, or storing corked wine. And you can see that the bottles developed in shape over time, and it was much easier to store a more cylindrical bottle. And so that's how the bottles kind of developed into be a more cylindrical shape. Also, that the necks became elongated because that made a better seal with the corks. Now, remember, these bottles varied greatly in size and shape and everything, and a lot of it had to do with the capacity of the glass blower's lungs. And these could vary anywhere from 650 to 850 mils. And it really wasn't until the 1970s that the European Union set upon 750 mils as the official volume of a wine bottle. But some of you that are old like me, you might remember that when alcohol of all sorts in the United States was sold in fifths, or a fifth of a gallon. And there was a push in the late 1970s to convert all of the United States into the metric system, not only for volumes, but for length and so forth. But in 1980, about the only thing that did actually convert to the metric system were alcohol bottles. So wine and beer then became 750s and they switched to metric.
That was definitely something that I've learned very recently. One, I would have thought that that standard size of 750 came a long time ago, not as recent as it did. And I was thinking, oh, 750 milliliters, because like 2 people in a household one night, that sounds like a good idea. I had no idea that it really was about the capacity of somebody's lungs, basically, to make it that size. That's insane. Okay, so size we know now, right? I feel like a lot of people probably just learned that, which is kind of cool. And then next, my question is shape. So the first bottle we drank out was long, skinny, and then we drank out of this kind of like bat-shaped bottle, right? So what is up with the different shapes that all these bottles are?
So prior to the advancements in glass blowing, there was already a thriving wine trade in Europe. Different growers and winemakers were trying to court consumers, and so they came up with a way to have their regions recognized. This was before they could actually get a label to stick on a bottle and so forth. So different growing regions came up with different shaped bottles, so that you could maybe recognize the style of wine that was in this bottle. So this is called a Hock bottle. Traditionally, it was from the Rhine and Mosel regions in Germany. If it was from the Rhine region, it would be brown. If it was from the Mosel region, it would be green. But notice it's very elongate. It doesn't have any distinct shoulders. This is a Burgundy bottle in comparison. You can see how much taller it is. So that's a Hock bottle, and we'll talk about the kind of wine that's in that in a minute. And this is a Burgundy bottle. This, again, a little bit more squat, has definitely no shoulders. Since this is from the Burgundy region, the kinds of wines that would be in this would traditionally be the varieties that are grown in that region, which were Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Then next we have a Bordeaux bottle. This is a Bordeaux. Notice it has very distinct shoulders. And these evolved as not only was the cylindrical bottle easier to stack for storage, but the shoulders were good for catching the sediment. And since these had a lot of the heavier red wines, there was a lot of sediment. And so these were more common. This is from the Bordeaux region originally, where you had Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cab Franc, and those types of wines. And then we have a champagne bottle. Now champagne, yeah, bring on the bubbly. This is champagne bottles, and champagne bottles have to be really strong. And the reason they have to be able to withstand 12 atmospheres of internal pressure. And that's more than 3 times the pressure of a car tire. So many winemakers in the world to this day try to follow these traditional methods of bottling the same type of wine in a similar type of bottle so that it's easier for consumers to recognize the type of wine that they might like. And when you go out into the marketplace, it's easier to note. So if you find a wine that you like, take note of the bottle shape, because that will definitely help you find a similar style of wine.
Okay. So, speaking of these shapes, I'm curious about those Chianti style bottles that you see in the store that are super round and they've got those wicker baskets around them. Is there any historical relevance to that?
Well, remember that if you were blowing a bottle, it would be much easier to have a round bottom. If you're just blowing it out, the bottom would be round. So it wouldn't sit really easily on a table. So what they did was they would blow the bottle round, and then they would put this wicker basket around it so that it would kind of keep it, stable on top of the table. Now these bottles are called fiascos, and that's kind of what you'd have if you didn't have the wicker basket.
Okay, all right, fiasco. I'm into that. I like that. So those are still actually, if you took it out of the wicker basket, would those still be round?
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Just for
yeah, it's tradition. It's tradition.
Or for the fiasco after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we have covered glass, how it entered the wine world, shapes and size. So let's talk a tiny bit about color.
Okay, so there are different elements that are added to the basic glass formula. I think we have a photo of that as well. So green glass is usually made by adding chromium for color and iron for strength. Amber glass the color was made by adding sulfur and carbon, pardon me, the amber color is really helpful because it absorbs harmful UV radiation that can damage wine. If you wanted to add a small amount of copper and some cobalt, you would end up with these blue type glasses called cobalt glass. And then as a side note, if you added boron to the basic glass mixture, you get a glass that is not susceptible to thermal expansion or cracking, and you get Pyrex.
Marta, before we move on, yeah. I've actually just had a few people ask us about the indentation. Everybody, we actually have that. It's coming up. We're going to talk about the indentation.
Yeah.
People just brought that question up, so we're going to get there, but sorry. Okay, keep going.
Okay. So then we have the different glass colors, and you can see this is an assortment from a glass manufacturer. And on your left, you see what's called flint glass. And originally flint, this kind of glass was made by adding calcined flint or pure quartz rock to the basic glass mixture. And over time, they've come up with other methods to make clear glass, but the name flint sort of stuck. During World War II, amber bottles became kind of scarce because the sulfur was used for industrial purposes and for the military, and it was also used in the sulfa drug sulfanilamide, which was common in first aid kits during World War II. So you didn't see a lot of amber colored glass during that time. But at that time, iron oxide, which was used to make green glass, really didn't have any other industrial purpose. So a lot of the glass became green and became much more standardized after World War II. So
color really has a lot to do with basically the time we are in the world and what is available.
A lot of that, yes.
Okay. What about Scheid? What kind of glass?
We use an assortment of bottles, the ones that you've seen. And we tend to stick with the traditional, the style of wine that would necessarily be in those bottles.
What color is this one?
Well, that's probably what's called a dead leaf green, this is just a sampling. There are lots and lots of different colors depending on the manufacturer, but you do want to have some color in it if you're storing it for a period of time.
Okay, perfect. So before we move on to the question about the indentation, Marta, more wine, please.
More wine?
Okay.
Oh, so this is...
Hold on. I want to do this because now I have been educated, and I think I will get an A when I say that this is a Bordeaux style bottle.
Yes, it is. And you have a Bordeaux style wine in the bottle as well. So this is our 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon. And Cabernet Sauvignon is the most widely planted wine grape in the world. It's really very, very common throughout the world. And this is from our Hames Valley vineyard and our San Lucas vineyard. And most of these are in the southern part of Monterey County where it's warmer. And so it really, really ripens really lovely. This is a lot of black fruit in here, a lot of sweet French oak. It's structured, but it has really a lot of integrated tannins. It's full body, but really soft and nice.
But it's still, I feel like a lot of people that might not like Cab think it's a little too chewy, too astringent, the tannins are too much, but I would say try this Cab. It's really, really approachable. I think the tannins are almost a little velvety. They're really soft. I love this.
It pairs, to me, this would be really great with a nice steak or some gooey cheese. Some of your charcuterie plate, maybe.
Or no food and just like
porch.
Porch.
I think so. Just porch.
Yeah, I know. I drink a lot of wine on my porch. Okay, so everyone's been asking. Let's talk about this, that indentation at the bottom of the bottle. Is this what we use to pour the wine? Is this an indication of quality? What is this indentation, Marta? The people want to know.
Oh, the people want to know. So what you're seeing here, this is called a punt. This is called a punt. And the punt is a historical artifact of glass blowing. And when you saw that first video and you saw him attach the pontil, hence punt, he attached it at the bottom of the bottle. And what they would do is, in order to get the bottle to sit flat on the bottle, is they would push that pontil into the bottle. So then when it sat upright, it only had to sit here on these edges. And this accomplished a couple things. One is it made the bottle really strong, especially the base, which is kind of fragile. And so it gave it extra strength and durability. And it also helped separate the sediment from the bottle. So I have a little demo for you. So this is a bottle. You can pretend that it's, let me see, there you go. You can pretend that that's sediment in the bottom of the bottle. You've pulled it out of your cellar, and now you want to pull it out and you want to drink it. So when you stand this bottle up, you can see all the sediment forms around that punt at the bottom of the bottle. Now, if I pour this way, all the sediment goes to this side. If I poured this way, all the sediment goes to the other side. If the bottom of that bottle was flat, as soon as you poured it in any direction, all the sediment would be mixed back up in the wine. Now, when you go to pour this, notice all the sediment falls down, and it falls down here and it catches on these shoulders. So it allows you to be able to pour off the clear wine and leave the sediment behind.
Thank you for that very scientific little demonstration there, Marta. That was awesome. Wow, that was very cool. And so also somebody earlier had asked about why the Burgundy bottle would be shaped like that. But I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that here we saw these types of cabs, these bigger, they have more sediment. Something like a Pinot Noir isn't going to have that same sediment, so you don't need those really intensely sloped shoulders, correct?
You don't need them, and and also, again, people were trying to differentiate their bottles. And Burgundy has been bottled for years and was a favorite of the court in France. And so they wanted to make their bottles look different than other people. So I think that's primarily for consumers' standpoint originally.
Cool. So when we put this out, I sent a reminder email to most of you guys yesterday, but I did get a few questions about sustainability. That's really big right now, the footprint that we have on the environment. So can you touch a little bit about our recycling program, or how just glass impacts the environment in general?
Well, Scheid recycles all their glass, all the glass that we get in the tasting room, any glass from bottling that's broken or not used would be all 100% recycled. And so you can see this mountain of glass behind you, that's called cullet. Cullet is furnace ready, recycled or broken or waste glass. And it is now used in making glass. It's ground up and it's used as an addition. Glass that's fired like this never really uses its purity or its quality, and it can be recycled over and over again. And roughly about 40% of all the wine bottles in the United States are recycled into cullet that then are ultimately fired again and made into more bottles.
Okay. Well, what about, let's take a break from glass for a second. So when I go to the grocery store, I don't have just glass to choose from, right? So there's those cute little canned rosés I can have, or those little juice box bottles. What about alternatives to glass for packaging?
Well, there are a lot of other packaging out there, like you mentioned, the aluminum, the aluminum cans, the bag in the box, a Tetra Pak, which is probably most familiar to people in something that looks like a chicken broth container or a little screw cap on it. A lot of these have been around for decades, but they're mostly were used for wine that was for immediate consumption. Buy it, take it home, consume it, not for something you were going to put down and age.
So don't cellar my boxed wine.
I wouldn't cellar your boxed wine, no, or stockpile it either. Yeah,
okay. I'll definitely have to take that out of the cellar and drink it soon.
Yeah, then drink it soon. Yeah, I would. so now we have a little video for you from a modern glass plant from the Oberk Packaging Company, and you can really see how new glass is being made.
Okay, well, I am glad we became a little bit more efficient in our bottling process. It's cool actually seeing the cullet in there after you talked about it too. Yeah. Before I get on to our next little section, I do have somebody asking if you can touch quickly on screw cap versus cork.
Well, screw caps have been around since the 1960s. And unfortunately, when they first started being put onto wine, they went onto Mad Dog 2020 and Mogen David and that sort of thing. So they got kind of a bad rap. But most of the wine now that's bottled under screw cap, about 90% of all the wine coming out of Australia, New Zealand is in screw cap. A lot of the new wine, the young wines from Germany are in screw cap, and Scheid bottles all of our wines in screw cap. And we have found, pardon me, we have found that it keeps the wine fresher, longer, and brighter and fruitier. But I think the reason that a lot of winemakers looked for screw caps is because of a problem with cork taint. And roughly 15 years ago, maybe more now, I don't know, the time goes by, but the failure rate of wine bottled under natural cork was as high as 6%. And that's quite a failure rate. And for those of you that don't know, wine that's bottled under natural cork can develop what's called cork taint. My best description for that is a dank horse trough or old basement water. So if you ever smell something like that when you first open a bottle that's been bottled under natural cork, that wine is what we would call corked. And unfortunately, winemakers don't know about this until it's been sent on its merry way. And so winemakers started looking at other ways to seal their bottles. And that's when Scheid went to 100% screw caps.
Awesome. Okay, so we already talked a little bit about 750 being the standard size, but I do want to kind of mention that there are still a few other sizes out there. So we do have a little graph that I'm going to show you, and due to technical difficulties with us coming to my house and not having time, it is a little cut off. You can't get all the way to the top there. But most of us are familiar with a Magnum, which is 2 standard bottles. But as you can see here, they actually go up pretty high in terms of bottles that these giant bottles hold. So most of them are named after kings, which is pretty cool. So from the 4 bottle equivalent, which is a Jeroboam, all the way up to what you cannot see, which is the Melchior. And the Melchior is going to be 24 bottles, 2 cases, and Melchior is actually the king of Babylon. So they're all kings. That's Salmanazar is the king, and that would be 1 case of wine. So if you wanted to be invited back to the next party, you should probably bring one of these bottles. But most people just know Magnums, right? So Marta's right now showing a Magnum, which is again 2 750s. And another thing that is probably worth mentioning, kind of like screw cap, is that these age really, really well. So correct me if I'm wrong, Marta, but I believe that this has to do with the fact that there's a lot less surface wine touching the air. So it's not going to be as oxidated, and it's going to really, really just sit and be beautiful. At Scheid, we've got this, we just released this 2014 Claret in a etched Magnum, and it is magnificent. And I would definitely say hold on to it or drink it and turn it into a vase, because it's really, really beautiful. But Marta, do they get even bigger than that?
As a matter of fact, they do. So the Guinness Book of World Records has the largest wine bottle being equivalent to roughly 420 gallons, which is 175 cases. It is over 10 feet tall. It weighs almost roughly 815 pounds empty. That's before it was filled. And it is currently in a Chinese restaurant in Austria. It was stored in a temperature-controlled glass box so that people could see the bottle. But at some point, the power went out. The temperature went up inside the glass box. The wine expanded, and it pushed through the 1-foot thick cork that's at the top of that bottle, which you can't really see, and it leaked out onto the floor. So they ended up calling the fire department and a dairyman to come and pump out all the rest of the wine, and they ended up having to salvage that wine.
That's what we're calling it now, salvaging, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I think when we're done with this, I'm going to have to take the rest of these bottles and salvage
them. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I think that's true. Yeah.
So I have somebody that just asked, because I think we're close to getting done till where we get to our little assumptions at the end, my favorite part. Somebody asked if you can explain how some wines are sweeter than others, like a Moscato versus a Chardonnay.
When to end up with a wine that has residual sugar, what happens is you stop the fermentation before the fermentation is completed. So when you get to start a fermentation, you have the juice and you add the yeast, and the yeast start consuming the sugar and as byproducts producing carbon dioxide and ethyl alcohol. Well, if the winemaker wants to make a wine that has residual sugar, you can stop the fermentation before the yeast have consumed all the sugar and leave some of that residual sugar behind.
So there's no additional sugar added?
No, it's just that the yeast didn't consume it all.
Okay, cool. And then somebody else asked, what was in that big bottle behind you, Marta?
This is a bottle. It's from age. It has stamped a date stamp on the bottom from 1918. It's probably roughly 15 gallons, if I had to hazard a guess. I got it out of a home that my dad was working on, and I've just always loved glass, so I always kept it. And it's not full of change.
Okay, last question before we get to assumptions, and you have to stick around for that because I have a different screen behind me and I'm really excited. If someone asked if weight correlates to quality, so the weight of a bottle, are you getting, if it's heavier, are you getting a better wine?
Most wine bottles average about a pound. Like this bottle empty would be roughly a pound, but they can range anywhere from 300 grams to 900 grams, and a pound is roughly 450. So although wine needs to be bottled in a sturdy glass container, and preferably something that's colored if you're planning to store it for any length of time, it really has nothing to do with the quality of wine and everything to do about being a sustainable producer. So you can think about the fact that you're taking a really heavy bottle, shipping it from the glass plant to the winemaker, then bottling the wine and then shipping it back out. So the greenhouse gases from this are substantial. And that's one of the reasons I think you've seen winemakers look at other types of packaging, like we talked about earlier, such as the Tetra Pak. But glass is glass. And so as long as it's in glass, which is our winemaker's preferred container, the weight of the glass has nothing to do with the quality and just about being sustainable.
Okay, so in wrapping things up here, we want to make sure that when everyone goes to the grocery store, they feel like they have a little bit of a better understanding of what they're seeing and what they need to know without being completely overwhelmed. So we're going to just finish this off with a few basic assumptions for everybody when they go to the grocery store that they can make based on the bottle that they see. So let's see if I can do this. Hock style bottle, Marta. What can we assume?
Well, this Hock style bottle, remember, tall, elongate, no shoulders. You could probably assume that this is a very aromatic wine, very fruity, usually will have no oak. Sometimes these can have some residual sugar. If you're in doubt, look at the alcohol content. If it's 11% or lower, it probably has some residual sugar, meaning that all the sugar was not fermented, so it didn't ferment to dryness. Now, if they're looking at like a wine from Germany or from Austria in this shape bottle, and it's 11% alcohol, that might very well be dry because they don't get their grapes quite as ripe as we do.
Okay. I'm having too much fun.
Where's your cart or your basket?
So I'm still walking down. Oh, okay. I've got this Burgundy style bottle. What can I assume from this?
So if this is a white wine, I would say probably 90% of the bottles that are white wine that are in this bottle would be a Chardonnay. Most of the red wine as well would probably be Pinot Noirs. However, if you look at a map of France, Burgundy region is on the east side of France, and just south of the Burgundy region is the Rhone Valley. Now, the Rhone Valley has bottles that are similar to this. They could be embossed with the papal seal up here, or the keys, St. Peter's keys to heaven are often. And so you will find this shape bottle, you'll find some Rhone varietals. In white wines, such as like a Viognier or Marsanne, Roussanne, and in red wines, Syrah and Grenache, that sort of thing.
Okay. And I'm gonna pull this from really high up because we're shy, so we're top shelf, right?
Yeah.
We got a Bordeaux style bottle. What can we assume?
So this is both of these are Bordeaux style glass, and this would be a Flint bottle, and this would be probably champagne green, but they both have just very distinct shoulders. So if this is a white wine in a Bordeaux bottle, traditionally these were varieties such as Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon from the Bordeaux region in France. So you could assume that these wines would be aromatic, usually unoaked, usually not sweet, although you will find some like Sauterne wines in this shape bottle, but they are also from the Bordeaux region, but they will be much more amber and definitely pricier. Pricier. A clear glass is something I just want to mention. That's something that you should plan to consume relatively young. This is a clear glass because there is no protection from light. We would want you to drink this within a year or two. And it's usually used to show off the beautiful color. Excuse me. I better have some wine here.
Yeah. Hydrate, Marta. Hydrate.
Yeah, hydrate. So this is again a red wine with in a Bordeaux bottle, and usually these would be more structured red wines, heavier red wines. But they're kind of a one size fits all in many cases now. They're used much more commonly than other wines. I think probably the two biggest differences are the Bordeaux and the Burgundy bottle.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm not going to lie, we did not get to everybody's questions, but any question we didn't get to, we will give to Marta and give her some homework and make sure that she gets to you guys all via email. But hopefully this helped everybody just feel a little bit more comfortable going to the grocery store and seeing these different styles and feeling like they can make a more educated decision. Like I said, I certainly thought I knew my stuff. And when we kind of prepped this one, I was a little bit like, whoa, I learned a lot. So Marta, thank you so much for giving us all this knowledge. I am completely fascinated, and I hope everybody else is too.
Oh, well, thank you. And, I just want everybody to know that winemakers are in the same boat as you are. There is just so much wine, as Chelsea has behind her in the marketplace, that there is just no way that winemakers could even know what type of wine was in the bottle. So by taking note of the shape of the bottle, you can kind of narrow your focus a little bit and hopefully find the style of wine that you enjoy. So thank you, everybody. And
yeah, thank you, everybody. And again, we'll get back to, I don't know if this will work. I don't feel like that. Cheers, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Out there.
Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.